afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. For Halloween, our program today is centered on pumpkins, Vermont style. We're going to learn from an expert about growing giant pumpkins, and we'll visit a Vermont farmer who grows commercial pumpkins. We'll also be looking back at a long-time pumpkin lighting tradition that many Vermonters remember fondly at Ellie's Farm Market in Northfield. When it comes to growing giant pumpkins, Kevin Companion of Huntington is the master. His pumpkins are consistent winners at the Champlain Valley Fair, as well as other fair and field days around the region. Across the Fence first met Companion in his own pumpkin patch back in 2002. Here's the story from Will Michael.
Kevin Companion knows a thing or two about growing big pumpkins. Very big pumpkins.
This is going to be Champlain Valley. Hopefully we can set another record. We only got to beat 750 pounds from last year.
With just a few days to go before he has to harvest his pumpkin for the weigh-in at the fair, Kevin is at once excited and anxious.
You can see here it's getting what's called netting right here, and that's when the pumpkin starts to mature. And it starts getting its ribs right here. It starts to pack on weight up into these areas, and that's when they start getting heavy. When they get high like this, that's hopefully when they're going to weigh heavy instead of a flat squatter type pumpkin. But right here is what's scaring me. That's why I'm taking it to the Champlain Valley Fair. It's getting a little crease in here, and as it gets a little bigger, it's going to squeeze down and possibly crack that open into the cavity of the pumpkin, and the pumpkin won't be any good after that. So we might as well finish it off this week. We've got 3 more days to go to the fair before it goes in, and we'll see what it'll do.
This behemoth is not even Kevin's biggest. Bigger ones are on the vine in his second giant pumpkin patch. With a few more weeks of growing, Kevin is hoping to harvest pumpkins here that top out at more than 1,000 pounds.
We'd like to go down to the Big E, down in Springfield, Mass. We were down there last year, we took a 3rd place, and we'd like to go down there with a bigger pumpkin and hopefully maybe win that one down there, and also take a bigger pumpkin than we took to Topsfield, Massachusetts, and see what we can do down there. That's the all New England weigh off down there, and it's 350 pounds just to get into that weigh off down there. That's where the big boys go.
So what does it take to grow these giants? How did you learn to grow giant pumpkins?
First it was trial and error. I cracked them. I put in too much fertilizer. I blew them up. I didn't cut the tap roots. I had problems, and then I started reading some books, talking to other growers and how things are done, and that's the best way to do it, is if you can get in the patch with somebody that knows, okay, what they're doing with that and can show you instead of just reading it. It's so much easier to see how it's done.
Kevin has perfected his own technique that includes paying a lot of attention to the stems of his giant pumpkins.
I spend a lot of time on my stems. You know, Wendy and I will come out here with the foam and block up the stem so there's no pressure. If you don't block up the stem, okay, the vine on the front of this is this big, which is a lot of weight. It puts pressure on that stem and it creates cracks as it's growing. And once it cracks, sometimes it'll go right into the cavity of the pumpkin, and then it's just going to rot. And all we do is we cut it and we take it out and it's thrown away. So we try to keep real good track of our stems in the front, and that's about the most important thing. And make sure you cut the roots underneath the vine so the vine can rise up. If I could tell any new grower anything, make sure that you cut the roots underneath the vine so the vine can rise with the pumpkin. Because the stem of that pumpkin is basically this high off the ground right now, probably 15 inches off the ground. Everywhere you see a leaf that goes down, there's a taproot, it's called, that goes into the ground, and that root goes down and it spreads out, and you can hardly pull it out. We cut them because you can't pull them out. And what's going to happen is, as the pumpkin grows, either the stem's going to snap or that vine's going to break. Either way, your season's done. And the thing is, you've grown it for quite a period of time and put on quite a bit of weight on the pumpkin, and you can't start another one. So you're dead for that year.
Kevin, is this something that anyone can do?
Anybody can do this. They don't have to go to the scale I go around here of going that big in the garden and trimming down to 2 pumpkins and putting all kinds of compost and manure into the garden. They can just get a seed, a 30 by 30 foot spot, okay, and grow one of these. And they can grow something pretty decent right in the backyard, okay, with fairly decent soil. You can get 400 or 500 pounds with no problem.
If someone is just starting, do you have a little secret that you want to share with them?
There's no secret. You just spend time taking care of your plants. You get your soil ready, you get the best seeds you can get, you water it, and you take care of it. That's the secret.
In the 14 years since we first met Kevin, he continues to grow record-breaking pumpkins. At the 2016 Champlain Valley Fair, he once again took home the blue ribbon with a pumpkin that weighed in at 1,040 pounds. Our next Vermont pumpkin story comes from the farmland along the Connecticut River Valley in Bradford. In 2004, the Gladstone family was honored with the Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year award, but dairying was only part of the family's story. The rest of the story involves the thousands and thousands of pumpkins that the Gladstones grow commercially. Here's Keith Silva with that story.
It's like throwing a big party.
The party gets going about mid-September and runs every day throughout October. As the pumpkins are sorted into bins, tractor-trailer trucks lumber through the fields, hauling out this year's crop. According to Master of Ceremonies Walt Gladstone, the guest list for this party is very exclusive.
We typically market about half a crop, which sounds just crazy, but when it's all said and done historically, it's not uncommon to leave about 40% of the crop behind because it doesn't make the cut. We typically grow 20 to 25 tons of pumpkins per acre. We typically market between 10 and 12 tons per acre. And if you can move enough volume and do it efficiently, then you can make a margin.
Gladstone is familiar with making a living off the land. He and his family run Newmont Farm in Bradford. The farm was recently named the 2003 Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. Although the farm's primary revenue comes from milking cows, Gladstone's success is also due in large part to diversifying his farming operation. Cultivating a cash crop like pumpkins is not Gladstone's only objective for growing a successful agricultural business.
I think that, if you're going to get into wholesale produce to any aspect, you need to figure out where you're going to try to sell it and what the economics are in trying to wholesale or retail, and you should do that and have the confidence in the fact that you can pull that off before you be concerned whether you can grow a good pumpkin or not.
As the last of the pumpkins are picked up and packed off, Gladstone finally feels a sense of relief.
Pumpkin season is probably the most rewarding when in fact you're over the hump and you've got most of your crop out of the field and you're looking at Halloween's right around the corner.
Jack-o'-lanterns didn't make their first appearance until the first decade of the 20th century. Before then, Scottish folk traditions teach that turnips were carved into lanterns, and these lanterns were linked to a mythical figure named Jack, who was supposedly so incorrigible that neither heaven nor hell wanted him, and he was forced to walk the earth toting his turnip lantern. Now, all this folklore aside, nobody knows when pumpkins were substituted for turnips. But if you think that's wild, you should check out what's going on here at Ellie's Farm Market in Northfield.
This madness has a name.
Apples are too small to carve.
This madness, formerly known as the Great Green Mountain Pumpkin Show, comes courtesy of Karen and Bill Moynihan. The Moynihans have been scooping out, carving, and lighting jack-o'-lanterns at their farm stand in Northfield for 25 years.
Well, my husband and I started this jack-o'-lantern display in 1977 with 50 jack-o'-lanterns, which to me now is done in about an hour probably. Gee, and we've mushroomed it up. It had such a reaction that now we are doing over 1,000 for the last 4 years. And that's my husband's fault actually, because the 5th year, he promised if I did 500, 100 for each year, he'd go back to 300, which is what we did the 4th year. Well, we've never been back. We haven't traveled that old road. We do 1,000, and people say to us, well, how many are you going to do this year? How many are you going to do this year? And I said, we're not into breaking our own record, this is plenty,
Karen carves almost all of the pumpkins herself, a skill, she says, she didn't learn as a child.
One time a reporter asked me if I had ever carved as a kid. I mean, where did I get my talent? And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I can't remember carving one as a kid. And so I actually called my mother in Florida and I said, Ma, did we have jack-o'-lanterns as a kid? I don't remember jack-o'-lanterns. All I remember is going into my aunt's big trunk of old clothes and picking out costumes with my cousins. And I can't remember a jack-o'-lantern. And she goes, well, no, your grandfather used to grow pumpkins, and if he had a couple extras, he'd carve them and bring them down and put them on our porch. And I can't even remember them being there and lit up. I mean, the costume thing was what I liked. And even today, the 2 nights of the show, occasionally you will find me lurking around in a costume. And in a costume, I am crazy. Well, maybe I am anyways, but in a costume I'm worse. I am like totally into it. You know, I changed my voice, nobody knows. I had my mother-in-law not knowing who I was a couple of years ago. I was talking to her, I had a costume on, and finally she says, who are you? You know, so I just get really into it, you know. It's just fun.
For 2 nights in October, the 30th and 31st, Route 12 is awash in headlights, flanked by a sea of flickering flame.
Don't use the excuse you don't want to get caught in traffic. If you don't have kids and you can come a little bit later, the candles burn all night the 30th. You can come at 1 or 2 in the morning and see the entire show parked right up front. And I'll tell you right now, if you don't park and get out and walk up along the fence, you're going to miss the best part of the show. You cannot drive by it and say you saw it.
The event is free to the public, but each year the Moynahans partner with a Vermont charity.
I would say about the 10th year into this, because of the fact that we didn't charge and because of the fact that of people's reaction and they just loved it, they would stop and try and give us money to defray the costs because just the candles are like $600 a year. We got thinking it's really a shame that somebody doesn't get the benefit of people's generosity and they want to give to us, we don't want to take the money, let's start picking a charity. I carved the name of the charity in pumpkins with an arrow, and the donations are totally unsolicited, and we wouldn't have it any other way because it still remains free fund, and I don't want somebody to feel that they can't come because they're going to be forced to donate or they have to donate. They do not have to donate. If they can, if they want to, the table is there. Volunteers are there, but it's totally unsolicited. And we will never change the reason why we do this pumpkin show. It isn't for the charity, it's for our customers.
For Karen Moynihan, this is a labor of love. It has to be. She's actually allergic to pumpkins. She wears latex gloves to avert a serious reaction. But for her, Halloween is a special day.
It's like Christmas in October. And that was what my husband's mother used to call it. It's more fun for me than any other holiday, I think. I'm not big on crowds, but this time, at this particular event, I love it. It's exciting. I feel like a kid again, and people are going to think you're crazy, how can carving, you must hate it, carving that many jack-o'-lanterns. Well, like I said, you can't hate it and do this many. There is no way. It is freezing out here, and a lot of times it is. It's raining, snowing. Some days we're lucky and we get good weather, but not usually. It's cold this time of year. So it's just like my favorite time of year.
Well, a lot of great memories. After nearly 40 years, Ellie's Farm Market has ended its great Green Mountain Pumpkin Show. The market, cider mill, and gift shop off of Route 12 remain open and feature locally grown produce and products. That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.